Assalamu alaikum, good morning, khushamdi, ji ayanu, goeiemorgen.
Pakhair agale, ni hao, tune shimme, washmale, ohaya genzaimis, guten morgen, hola, bonjour, privyet, kaifa hal, hale shema chatore, halan masalan marhaba, buna, mucho, gracias, and a very amazing good morning to everybody who's tuned into PTV World and watching World this morning alongside the very energetic Shiza Hashmi and Shahzad Khan. Hello Shiza, how are you today? Looks like as if you have had 2 cups of coffee.
No, I just had 1 can of coffee, that's true. And well, first of all, I'm going to be true today.
Okay.
So you have to pick my lies if I'm ever lying and tell me that as well. I'm doing great, what about you?
Are you sure about it?
I mean, okay, let's see. Yes,
I mean, do you really want me to pick up on your lies?
I mean, let's do that because I want everyone out there to learn from this and be
Yes.
true to everyone around them and to themselves as well.
Exactly, that's wonderful, Shiza, and I think that, ladies and gentlemen, whenever, first of all, it brings me immense pleasure to know that, there are a lot of people who actually watch our show as well on daily basis, and to do justice with it, we pick up on different topics as well. So today, the topic we have picked up on, I think Shiza is actually going to share a story with us, and then we're actually going to kind of look into it, what the topic is, So Shiza, go ahead. What's your story?
So without giving anything away, I feel like I'm just going to start with the story.
Sure.
So this is not particularly mine, but I was discussing something with one of our new coordinators or researchers on the show.
Yeah.
And she said she has a maid, she likes to call her help, at her place. And there was this one time, some of her very precious jewelry was stolen. I mean, we don't know by whom, but of course there were chances that the help might have done it.
Yeah.
So she just, called everyone out in the house and she asked them if they have done it because it was so, of course, precious, right?
Yeah.
So the next day, the help came back with the jewelry and she returned it. And she said, I did it, but I can't contain it anymore. I mean, I know I did wrong and you have to forgive me. And I feel like if I were her, I would forgive her. I have no idea why he's laughing on this story. This is inspirational for me. I mean, when we were sharing the story, first of all, I have never stolen. I never will, inshallah. But I'm just saying if someone did this to me and, came up and, of course, accepted whatever they've done, I'd forgive them and appreciate them as well.
Okay, that's great, but I'm going to ask you a very different question, in days to come. So do you think that stealing somebody's heart is actually stealing or not being honest?
Well, okay, we will ask that to our very
we will definitely ask that.
You have a story too.
Yeah, I have a story too, and I think it was when I was 12 or 13 years old, and that was that, ladies and gentlemen, a lot of my cousins, they were rich kids, and, since my father was actually progressing in his career, so I've never ever had a 100-rupee note in my pocket. So I'm sorry to share this, Abu, but I think that it is going to help in the development of all those kids who are out there whose parents are actually watching.
Yeah.
So what I did was, so my father had this habit of taking off his shirt and then sleeping with his vest on as well. So I was just looking for the pocket in the shirt with money full of it. So what I did was I sneaked into his room and I took out a 100-rupee note and keep it in my pocket. But eventually, when I did it all, Abu didn't know that, that this is something which I've done. So what happened was that, the guilt started to kick in. And I've got 2 similar stories alongside that as well. So the guilt started to kick in that, okay, this might not be very wrong. Because in life, I think I have this formula where I practice it quite a lot.
Okay.
And that is that if whatever you're about to do in your life, if you for a second think that, would my father or mother be okay with it, I think that's the formula where you'll know where the thin line is.
Or do you practice it?
Yeah, I do practice it. I do practice it half of the time, I think, now, even when I've grown up. So what happened was that after 2 hours, I think my father was supposed to leave for some meetings. And I just started crying, and I couldn't hold the, the feeling
guilt.
inside, the guilt inside me as well. And then I went up to Abu and I was like, I'm very sorry, but I've taken this 100-rupee note out of your pocket, and I never wanted to do that, but this was the reason. So what he did was he actually gave me another 100 as well, and he was like, it's perfectly all right that you actually came up and shared
that's
this
so
with
sweet.
me.
This is a shout out to your parents. Auntie, uncle, you did a great job
Yeah,
bringing up.
and there's one more as well. So. So I'm very sorry, but I think that this is the most interesting. So what happened was that, every year in Barrier College, since I studied from Barrier College as well, so every year, towards the end of the year, there'll be this annual function. And so within that annual function, there were these boys from first year, second year, or A levels who actually used to dance and perform.
Okay.
I think I was in the 5th grade, and, they would wear some very cool goggles and spectacles and whatnot. So, and I always wanted to have a pair of sunglasses to myself, which I never did. So what I did was that I went back home and I was like to Abu that, you know, oh, this annual function, they've actually selected me to perform.
You were so excited.
And I need those shades as well for my
right.
performance. And then Abu was like, okay, fine, you know. So he took me to a shop. I'm just looking for a different kind of shades and whatnot. So whatever I liked, I picked that up. And then eventually, as soon as I got out of the shop, I started crying again. And I was like, I was just lying, you know, I didn't need these shades and whatnot.
Oh, God.
But till then, you know, I bought them. But eventually, ladies and gentlemen, the sole purpose of sharing this story was that one way or the other, I think that my parents have actually given me that value that, for God forbid, if you're going to lie, you know, you're not going to end up anywhere in life. That is why that guilt kicked in as well. And then, you know, going up to them and opening up to them about the mistake you've made will actually make you a better man. I mean, even if you've lied, you can always cover it up with being honest later on. Unfortunately, because, you know, you have to be apologetic about it.
No, so ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't guessed, you know, up till now, we are talking about honesty. And when we speak about honesty, it's not just about speaking the truth. It's about practicing the truth as well. I mean, it's not just me coming up to you, you know, admitting anything that I've done or, you know, anyone that I know.
I mean, but you've never said that, you know, you like me as your colleague, you know.
You're an amazing colleague.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
But, you know, ladies and gentlemen, it's also, you know, being honest to yourself, to your job counts as well, to your family, to your circle, everything counts. So without further ado, I'm going to be introducing the guest to you because Shahzad, I'll tell you, our panel thinks that the introduction dialogue that we do is long usually.
Yeah,
so I feel like
we just take our time, you know, you're being honest here.
That's very true. So I can't wait, you know, to start the conversation with them because we will be discussing different sort of spheres of life. You know, how to be honest in the corporate sector, in our school life, and in all other spheres as well. So on my right-hand side, we've been joined by someone who happens to be an educationist. This is none other than Mr. Umair Qureshi. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the show.
Sam sir, thank you very much for joining us. Please wake up. Yes.
And next to Mr. Umair, we have someone who happens to be a clinical psychologist. She's been on the show before as well. This is none other than Dr. Aiza Abid. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the show.
Walaikum assalam. Thank you. And to be honest, I'm an educational psychologist.
Okay. Thank you for correcting me. And thank you for being honest as well early in the morning.
Thank you for correcting our producers too.
Yeah. Next to Dr. Aiza, we have someone again who happens to be a very, very impressive speaker. He's a corporate trainer. He's none other than Mr. Furqan Shamsi. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the show.
Assalamu alaikum and very good morning.
Thank you very much for joining us. So, you know, in the first phase of the show, what we want to do is that we actually want to let people know that our guests over here can even lie too as well. So each one of you actually have to share one of your story where you've lied in life and then you've learned that, you know, how lying can actually be bad for your future or for anything, you know, or probably it can put you in problem as well. So I think I'm going to start with Mr. Umair Qureshi.
Okay. Not lying, like being honest, how that changed everything, right?
Like honesty is, you know, it's a holistic picture.
Right.
I would like to share one story of mine.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
So I was in a university and I wasn't an outstanding student, right? And
thank you for being honest.
Yeah. So I was an average student, and my father had very high ambitions about me, and he wanted me to excel academically. Though I was excelling, but you know, like a turtle. But so once I think there was a subject, it wasn't of my interest.
Okay.
And I failed it, and I did a little drama. I actually pretended that I felt sick, and I was sick. And but later I realized that wasn't a good idea.
Okay.
So fathers and parents obviously know that thing. But that is one story that I relate. But I have learned one thing. Whatever is the truth of the life, you must carry on with that.
Definitely.
And that makes your life easy. That makes your life straightforward. And staying honest with your friends, with your colleagues, and as a teacher, when I talk to my students, I try my level best to stay honest with them.
That's beautiful, Umair sir. But you know, before we move on to Dr. Aiza over here, I'm saying, now you're an educationist, so if any of your students pulls off this stunt, you know, of being sick and not coming to school, so you for sure know they're lying, right?
Yeah, right.
Because you've done it before.
And that is why I say that the professional teacher is always a good psychologist as well.
Exactly.
Understands the children's psychology, understand the stress that they go through while going through the academic period. And you know, we have a different system in not different actually, it's a very traditional system. In Pakistan, like exams and tests and everything, and the society judges you on the basis of your degrees and your grades, which is obviously not that much acceptable in the modern world today, because the world is changing at a very high pace.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I do understand it, that if they are saying anything like that, but in my experience, like I have been teaching for the last almost 20 years,
Yeah, mashallah.
students are a bit comfortable with me.
Okay.
That's great.
They don't tell me lie like that, because I don't come very hard on it.
That's absolutely great.
So that is okay. That is okay.
But I think, yeah, that's superb too as well. You know, when kids actually have a relation with the teacher or a bond with the teacher,
Right.
I think everything goes smooth as well.
Right.
So, Dr. Javaid, what about you? Where did you lie in life?
I can't remember where and where not. So let's not go down that alley. But I was just thinking about, I studied in a convent basically. And I was raised in a culture of always being honest. So the option of lying, well, I was actually, all my needs were met.
Okay.
I was in a very comfortable space by my parents and by my school, so there was never any reason basically to lie. So I never encountered those situations per se, where you would say, well, that bit of, that what you shared, that was just one time.
Similar story.
Just one time.
Yeah.
But then I think that was at a very young age, and
you're learning.
And one is learning.
Yeah.
But the main thing is that it is what the expectation given to you.
Yeah.
And like we have all just discussed, that honesty is something which is fostered in individuals by the society.
Exactly.
And when you feel worried, or when you, the guilt bothers you, it means that, okay, your parents or your teachers, they are doing their job well, that they are making you think and decide for yourself which way to go.
Exactly. I think
Which
that's
is a
a
good
wonderful
sign.
explanation as well. She saved herself. She saved her skin by not sharing a story.
Very smart.
Let us just move on to Mr. Furqan Shamsi. Sir.
Right, the moment of being honest about our dishonesty.
Yes.
Yes.
So many of them, honestly speaking. So let's be honest here. But very recently, I lied to my daughter about the truth fairy,
Oh,
That's what
but
we all
that's
do.
sweet, Shamsi.
So no, that's what I'm saying. I think this will actually generate another part of the discussion later on as
Yes,
well.
I already
You
know what
see.
to ask.
So that's what I did recently. She's going into that transition nowadays. Milky teeth are going, and every other night there has to be a visit by a tooth fairy.
Yeah.
And that's,
Of course.
we're right. So that's what I did. But in terms of interpreting it, obviously, to the real world, I think that teaches us how we can actually maintain and leverage that balance
Okay.
while we're teaching and upbringing our kids as well.
Okay.
So we tell them the stories, or it could be many other,
Yeah.
and how we balance them with the right part of the information as well. So that's what I think it teaches me.
Okay,
But there are many other stories.
Yeah,
because
yeah, that- that's great.
the smile on Shazad says he really wants to listen.
He's not trusting whatever.
But I've got something very interesting to share. So,
Okay, go
now,
ahead.
ladies and gentlemen, honesty is the best policy. That's the topic, so we have to be honest too as well.
Okay.
There are days when you're so overworked and, early in the morning, getting up and coming to the
Right.
studio, it does get difficult. But then as soon as you go live, you have to put in all the energy,
Right.
this and that and whatnot. So Mr. Furqan Shamsi over here is a motivational speaker. And for a motivational speaker, it is not very necessary that every day, they wake up, they're very motivated about life. There are times when you're not that motivated, you might not feel like giving a lecture out as well or going to a certain place, but you still have to do it. Isn't that lying? I'm sorry, but that's how it
Yes,
is.
I would say because it refers to the. I usually put a three.
I'm sorry though.
No, that's
Yeah.
fine. I mean, just a bit of a correction. I'm not purely a motivational speaker. I'm a management consultant.
Yeah.
So when I work as a managerial trainer or a speaker, so that differentiate us from the motivational speaker.
Right.
Now, as part of the job, we do it. Now, if we're not in a mood, we go and do it, and that's what most of the people, when they are going to their workplaces, this is what the phenomena is. I would say, yes, it is a kind of a dishonesty anyway. I would refer it to the word responsibility.
Okay.
And what is responsibility is what is expected of you, you do it, and then you accept the consequences.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, there are two consequences. It could be positive, it could be negative.
Yeah.
So we always aim for the positive ones.
Yeah.
So if we're not doing it by heart, so obviously we're accepting the consequences which are a bit on the negative side.
Well, that's fine. Yeah, part of the job.
Okay, so, well, this is a question for all of you. So for Khan Shamsi Saab, mentioned the story of his daughter and how sort of he manipulated the story and everything.
Yeah.
But that I feel like everyone has done, right? Again, it is, not truthfulness, but I feel like we have to do it. I don't want to shatter their dreams of, probably sometimes the tooth fairy or even Christmas in some cases. But yeah, so is being dishonest ever justifiable, and in what conditions?
I think if it saves your life, it does.
No, like, okay, I
Yeah.
want a detailed answer. Let's start with you, sir.
Okay, so in my view, in my perspective, I'm sorry.
No problem.
Honesty and why people get dishonest.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the other way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like why dishonesty is seen in the society,
Okay.
in the schools, in the colleges, in the work at the workplaces. It's about the judgment, the fear of judgment.
Yeah.
So, like, we at times come very hard on the people, and we start judging them without giving them any leverage.
Yeah.
So, when the people feel like that they will be judged on speaking the truth, and they will be punished actually.
Yeah.
There is a common understanding among the people that the truth is always punished.
Okay.
So, there are rare people who understand it the other way, who take it the other way. So, yeah, in those cases, when the people feel that they will be judged on the basis of so many things,
Yeah.
they start becoming dishonest. Now,
It's easy to lie, right?
It's about, yeah, and it's about the levels, the benchmarks of the dishonesty.
Okay.
At times, you are a bit dishonest to save your skin.
Yeah.
You are a bit dishonest to save your community,
Right.
or your family, or something like that, your belongings. But when you feel like that the things are going on the right way, and your truth is accepted, and that is going in the right direction, people stay honest. Coming to another part, at times when we talk to the people,
Yep.
you might have seen in this society, when we debate, when we talk about the honest opinion, there is a rule. When we say I'm giving you my honest opinion, it doesn't mean I'm going to attack on you personally.
Right.
So,
And when I'm so sorry, but this is on a lighter note. Whenever someone starts a conversation with "I'm going to be honest," it is always going to be
So
offensive.
yeah, I just hold my heart. I just hold my heart. Okay, what are they
It's
going to say
usually
next?
always going to be offensive.
So it needs a compassion with the honest opinion. What do you think about it? It doesn't mean to attack personally on someone, but it
Right.
is to find a way out of a problem.
Yeah.
If the problem is in Shehzad, I won't like to personally attack on Shehzad, but
Yeah.
I can say that fine, okay, let's move on with this problem. Let's come up with this problem.
Yeah.
So, like I being a hardcore educator, I feel it every day.
Okay.
And when I sit with my students, I deal with the multiple intelligence.
Okay.
Yeah.
I deal with the kinds of students who are from different backgrounds,
Yeah.
who are being judged every single moment.
Okay.
And like if Shehzad doesn't have a good grade and his cousin has a good grade, it's a terrible life for Shehzad.
He's just going to
It's
like my cousin then.
So that is one thing which pushes the people towards the dishonesty.
Judgment, right?
Exactly, that's correct too as
Very
well. But
beautifully
now,
explained.
ladies and gentlemen, I want to move on to another direction as
Okay.
well, and that is that, as Mr. Furqan Shamsi very correctly mentioned, that it's the society which actually makes you either truthful, honest, or you're into dishonesty as well. But now, Dr. Aiza, what I want to ask you is that we live in a society where, for example, if I'm going to go, and I'm sharing my personal experiences, if I'm going to go buy vegetables, he's not going to weigh them properly. If I'm to go buy a car, he's going to get it overpriced as well. Whatever the owner might have asked, he's going to ask for another 2 lakhs or 3 lakh rupees. Everybody out there is out there for a commission, whether they deserve it or not. We go into our offices, people are not on time. I think that's dishonesty too as well. And in terms of all of these lines, where do you see our society being honest? Because we're not honest at all. Popo is not honest with my Ammi. My Ammi is not honest with her sister. Things like that. And it's
no,
happening
it's
every
true.
day.
It's true.
Sisters are not honest to sisters. Brothers
Yeah.
are not honest with brothers. And there's this hegemony which is going on. People do not realize it. They brush it under the carpet and they think everything's fine. But that's not how it is. Within our society, if we have to give out a percentage, I think 70% people are not being honest in their daily lives.
Right,
Well,
right. Very
let's
right.
put it in a perspective, because we are talking about our own country.
Yeah.
We tend to, and the people we are dealing with, we tend to think they are not honest or they are not good or whatever.
Yeah.
But I would look at the worldwide percentage. We are all the same.
Okay.
Okay, so maybe standard policies or governmental regulations, pricing, etc., is much better in many other countries. But at the end of the day, we are all humans, and we all want to take things to our own advantage.
Okay.
That is natural. That is survival. Having said that, what we as an individual need to see is how fit are we and how understanding are we of the environment we live in.
Okay.
Well, you know, there will be a commission. You know, the vegetable, the vendor, he has to get rid of his bad veggies as well.
Yeah.
So, are you smart enough to just, you know, select yourself,
Right,
or just to get what he's giving
So
you?
you're
See?
trying to say that it's our responsibility to judge then?
No, no. Judge is a negative word.
Okay.
Our responsibility is to be alert and
Vigilant.
vigilant. Well,
Right.
yes, but attentive to the environment around us, so that we take care of ourselves. Now, this is a self-honesty.
Yeah.
I know what I like, so when I protect my interest. So when I go, I know if this person is giving me a bad quality items,
Yeah.
then I don't go to him. Very simple as that.
Okay.
Why should I encounter and take on someone? Okay, if I want to go to consumer protection or whatever, then we can do that. Nevertheless, let's be aware of our own the environment, and accordingly live in that.
Okay.
Dr. Saiba, being aware is something very different. You know, I think everybody is doing that if you have to survive over here in Pakistan. I'm very sorry, but I have to be honest with my
No,
job
you're
too.
right.
But today, if you're talking about honesty is the best policy, that too in Islamic Republic of Pakistan, where the majority is of Muslims, where our religion actually emphasizes on speaking the truth and just the truth as well. Why do we actually have to be careful about all of these things where people are actually, you know, supposed to be honest in their daily lives? I mean, this is what a definition of a mu'min is.
So many answers
Shehzad,
to
you are
that.
mixing up two or three things. Let's not bring the whole, you know, the religious ideology. That is what is expected of everyone.
Okay.
And then we would say, you know, the Westerns have a better moral code than us. Isn't
Yeah.
that
It's
so?
a case of humanity. It's
Exactly.
It's the case of humanity.
Yeah.
And so let's not get into that big thing. You know, it comes from the home, it goes to the society, it goes to the overall work environment.
Okay.
So every person who is honest and you know, able to understand these things, they are living pretty well, and they're giving others their space also.
not. Okay.
So my best teachers in life have been those who have not judged me.
Alright.
They have given me space, and they have accepted me as I am.
Wow.
Absolutely.
And that has inculcated great respect in me, regardless of their age or status.
Right. Yeah.
So,
and
you see,
Dr.
so
Isaac-
our own, as a good Muslim, as a good human being, our own behavior actually teaches others so many things.
Exactly.
And Dr. Isaac, you said that, you know, your best teachers were the ones who didn't judge you. I feel like that's right, because even the people who sort of stay in my memory or in my circle are the ones who I feel don't judge me, right? I feel it's only natural. But moving on, right now we're going to be talking about people who have jobs, workplaces, and are in the corporate sector. So, Mr. Furqan Shamsi, you know, there are a lot of people who have different code of ethics, and then they practice them differently. So sometimes in a workspace, when so many different, you know, perspectives are coming in, the definition of honesty is sometimes blurred. How can one exist in a workplace where one feels they're honest, but the people around them are not?
We all, you know, what we were discussing just a few minutes
Yeah.
back, it's about not to bring the religion or anything,
Yeah.
but it's about the ethics and values, the morality, the
Right.
moral codes, and at the end of the day, it's our values,
Right.
core
Yeah.
values. So sometimes we confuses ourselves, I mean many of us actually confuse values just with the religious values. There are social values, there are family values, there are societal values, you know, all of them. So at workplace, understanding workplace diversity means you're accepting other people.
Okay, okay.
Their the differences and similarities with other people, that's one thing. The other part is why we've not been considered honest, or why we are, you know, we are actually kind of saving ourselves
Okay.
behind all those realizations we make to ourselves. One,
Okay.
that we, most of the time we are honest. We are not. I just gave you an example of that very thing.
Right, right.
That's a very basic one.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We do it every day, and still we claim ourselves to be. So here comes that pro-social lies.
Okay, okay.
Now, one, So hence I linked it to the word responsibility, which is actually very much eminent at the workplace.
Yeah.
What responsibilities, what is expected of you to complete your work? For example, outside workplace, if I just park my car somewhere in the parking bay and I parked it in the wrong way, I was responsible to park my car.
Right,
I did it. Now here comes another part. That's the second part of it. If it is not parked correctly, or if my work is not completed as per desired, there will be some consequences, either on me, either on someone else. What we are concerned with most of the time is the consequences with ourselves. We don't look at the consequences or the outcomes which are related to other people or to other colleagues or workplace. So I would link it to the very first word, responsibility, what you're expected to do. That is one thing. The consequences could be positive and negative. So if the desired work is completed or achievement is being made with the positive consequences or outcomes, you've been honest at your workplace. And the second word is actually self-esteem.
Self-esteem.
That's what we are telling ourselves, what stories we are telling ourselves. Are we telling the stories
and I would definitely want to build up on that too as well. But right now, ladies and gentlemen, we've got a small trailer to share from the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory as well. Go ahead, take a look, and when you guys will come back, there's this one thing which I wanted to ask, and that is, how flexible can you be while being honest, knowing that if you're going to be very honest, it might hurt the other person, it might damage them permanently, or it might just make them feel like as if they should actually die. I mean, so can we be flexible? Can we be, can we lie at situations like these as well? I think this is something which is very important. Let's do that. Good morning.
Stay tuned.
To allow 5 children to visit my factory.
5 golden tickets have been hidden underneath the wrapping paper of 5 ordinary Wonka bars.
Wouldn't it be something, Charlie, to open a bar of candy and find a golden ticket?
But I only get 1 bar a year.
Nothing's impossible. You found Wonka's last golden ticket.
From director Tim Burton.
Please enter.
Who are you?
He's Willy Wonka.
I'm Violet Beauregard.
I don't care.
I work at the group. I love the chocolate.
I can see that.
I'm Veruca Salt. Daddy, I want another pony.
You're my TV.
Die!
Okay. And you? Well, you're just lucky to be here, aren't you? Welcome to the factory.
Warner Brothers invites you to enter a whole new world, unlike anything you've ever imagined.
It's beautiful.
Where dreams are your reality.
Look over there.
They're Oompa Loompas.
Back off, you little freaks.
I do say that all seemed rather rehearsed.
You're really weird.
And Willy Wonka
Let's boogie.
is your guide.
Ew.
This year, 5 lucky kids will follow in his footsteps.
I want a squirrel.
Don't touch that squirrel's nuts.
Why is everything here completely pointless?
But only one
Candy doesn't have to have a point. That's why it's candy.
will find his heart.
Hold on.
Johnny Depp, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Well, this was Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, ladies and gentlemen. This was after so many years that I watched the trailer again. I almost forgot what the movie was about. But before we went out to watch the trailer, Shahzad,
You're being so honest today, Ashita.
See? So before we went out to watch this trailer, Shahzad, you had a pretty amazing question that even I want the answer to. So should we proceed with that?
So let's get started, and I want everybody's take on that. So Matt, I'll get started with you. I'll repeat the question for everybody, if in case you just have tuned into PTV World. And that is that, there are different situations in life when you know that, for example, if I'm going to tell them the truth, it might have an impact on them for life. It might damage them permanently, or they might just feel like killing themselves as well. There have been situations like these as well.
But that's
what are you supposed to do in a situation like this? Still be honest? I think that's just going to be so ruthless. That's just not being human. I think that's what it is.
Right. So I would like to continue with the, and I will answer this question as well. What Shamsi Saab said, like empathy, honesty is practiced, it is taught from the very early years. And it's not about like you have a 40 minutes class on honesty, you know, and at the end you go for an exam and you give an A grade in honesty, like Shahzad gets C, right? So you can't do that. Like it is taught through the curriculum. Whatever we teach, I give the reference of the curricula and curriculum and the syllabus and all that because I am a teacher and I am an educationist. So what I feel and what I see in this society, the problem emerges when we say that it's okay to not to accept the faults. When we teach history, when we teach geography, when we teach maths, when we teach different subjects, and we do not teach it in its true essence and whatever is the required. So it is taught from the early years. When this is the parents, this is the teachers, this is the adults of the society who are working as the models for their children.
Right.
So the children actually learn. I have learned a lot from my father. I have learned a lot from my teachers, good or bad things, both. So, but when my teachers said that it's okay to go for the shortcuts, it's being dishonest with my education, with my learning. My eventual learning is must go up to, like we call it Bloom's taxonomy, and we go up the hierarchy and we say that ultimately you should be at the level of creativity. But when you start bypassing the things, you start getting dishonest from your own learning. And that is the practice which is taught from the early years. That is unfortunate in our society, that our education system teaches us dishonesty. And they actually emphasize, they are actually focused on one thing, how good grades you have and how good marks you have, no matter how you earn them. You go through the right ways or you go through the wrong ways, and you will see the generation that we have grown in like last 30 years and 40 years, my generation, we have gone through a lot. We didn't have any vision. This generation is the most confused generation of the country.
Thank you for saying that. I feel the same way.
Are we a part of this generation?
I mean, we are.
I think so, yes.
So the thing is that when we stay honest to the society, before that, before lecturing anyone, I have to be honest to myself.
Okay, that's great. Now you have to come to my question.
Now your question is that how I should be honest to anyone, and I said it earlier.
Now, in a situation where, you know, the other person, where I can actually scar the other person for life.
So literature has one word. Stay diplomatic.
Okay.
Right. And
don't be mean.
I like it.
Don't be that hard that to kill someone. You know, you don't have to kill someone.
Then
you have
that
to
is bullying,
support
right?
the person. It's bullying.
I do love you, but I can't be with you. I mean, is this something which sounds nice? I don't know. I don't think that it's like
how many of us have used it?
Just like
a
that.
lot of times.
You know, there are a lot of people who like other people, and you know they want a good answer, but unfortunately they don't get a good answer. So okay, I love you, but I cannot be with you. What does it really mean, though?
No. West has done this thing, like they have categorized the such kind of relationships. Like I love you and I cannot be with you is one kind of relationship. They call it open relationship.
Right.
We don't have that thing. We have close relationship. We have close everything. And that is good. So the thing is that, I love you. I cannot be with you. Try to understand.
Okay, try saying it in a better way. Try saying it in a better way. Come on.
If I can, add something. I mean, I would like to change the word. I mean, staying diplomatic rather. You know, they say worst. I just actually read it somewhere and quoted this morning as well on my social media as well, that the worst truth is better than the best lie.
Okay.
Now, obviously, we can't do it every time. In the situation you're referring to, very simply, you have to be smart. You don't have to be clever. So there is a very thin line between being smart, where you're trying to, being clever is that I like you and you know I can't be with you.
As clever as a fox,
So it's more trying to be clever. So where you're trying to hide your weaknesses. Being smart is where you're building upon your weaknesses and converting them into strength.
Strength, yes.
So if you can use that, you've been honest with someone, and you tell them, I like you. Why? But the reasons being? So the magic word was actually empathy.
Yes,
so go into other person's shoes, but not stay there. Come back into your own shoes. Use your social skills and elevate it to the compassion level. And once you do that, you've been, we call it diplomatic.
No, but that doesn't answer my question. You know, I'm asking you a question where it is a life-threatening situation if you're going to be honest. So what are you going to do? You're supposed to lie?
Let's say.
Let's continue, Doctor.
Honesty is a precursor to your life events.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you are honest and sincere, like our Prophet was, look at his life. And that's the golden rule for us to follow.
Yeah.
Now, if we are all honest from day one, what happens? It leads to a succession of events where you have integrity, you have moral ethics, and all that what we have been previously discussing. It leads to a life where you are very comfortable with your own soul and you're very comfortable with the environment. So people come to value you for what you are. Now, when you are, so people respect you, and you are including all those qualities of empathy, compassion, and kindness. So honesty doesn't mean slamming somebody's face in the truth.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that's very mean. And that's being brutal, and it also leads to your being isolated eventually.
That is true.
So,
that is so true.
I have seen doctors tell a person very casually, you are in the third, you are dying, go home, sort out your matters. 5 sentences. And I didn't realize that's what they're telling. So you see, you tell the truth, but it depends how you tell it. It doesn't take away anything from you, but in fact, it enhances you in the light of the other people.
Absolutely.
So you do need to tell the truth. In your life, you do need to give that bitter thing, but you give it with a glass of water, which is soft, because that person will always remember you with good words. Because in my field, I have to break the bad news to parents every other week. And they will then remember me for being supportive at that time. If I'm not, then I'm going to reap the
right,
or
I feel like honesty is a virtue, right? I mean, automatically you're going to build a personality and an aura that people are going to admire.
Thank you.
And you know, Mr. Omer Qureshi
I would
over
like
here.
to add one
thing.
Just one thing, sir. So sorry I'm cutting you off here.
Sure.
But you mentioned, you know, about the education system and how honesty should be inculcated since the beginning. This was just yesterday. I was reading news from our neighbor India, and this was in the Uttarakhand state, you know. Uttarakhand, yes. And, you know, the education system over there, the board classes, they are actually very known for cheating during the exams and everything, so it was taken under notice. And then, you know, there was a special check and people were there to monitor cheating, and not one single student cleared the exam. Imagine this. So they were never taught, right?
Imagine the level of education.
Yeah, please, so you wanted to add something?
So I continue with the same question. Should we kill the people with the honesty? You know, honesty is just one tool. So it's a complete toolbox. So when we trust someone, there are some important ingredients in that person. Like, you will trust on me if I am reliable, if I am compassionate, if I am honest, and if I am open. So my openness, my compassionate nature, and my reliability and honesty, it's a blend.
Right.
So we cannot pick just reliability, we cannot pick just honesty, and you start using it as a lethal weapon to start killing the people. You know, when we go to the doctors, no doctor says that. Like, psychologist doesn't say that you are actually gone mad, you are bipolar, or like that. No one says that. I mean, they have good words to convey the same message.
Our friends say that to us all the time. Tu pagal ho gaya, yaar. Pagal ho gaya.
But that's on a lighter note.
So I think it's the choice of words. It's like, it's not like what is being said. It is about how
it's being said. Very rightly said. So, you know, I feel like, I mean, so far we have definitely established that it is the right thing to be honest. So building up on that, I feel like when you're being dishonest and when you keep lying about anything or anything at all, it definitely starts creating a certain stress in your own self. I mean, if I were to lie to you, Shahzad, of why I was ever late to the show or why I ever didn't show up, I'd definitely be creating a story that probably I will forget and won't be able to keep up. So it's such a huge stress to deal with, right? So even, isn't it better to be honest rather than...
And, you know, then at the same time, I think wives lie a lot as well. I'm sorry that I'm just like doing that, but, you know, half of the time, you know, there are people, for example, my father's going to come back home and he's going to ask me, what happened? Kuch nahi. You know, this kuch nahi is killing the other person. You know, you're not generically like that. You know, usually when I come back home, you're not behaving like this. What happened to you? kuch nahi. So, this kuch nahi is hiding a lot of things as well. But why do you think all of these things happen as well? Why can't you just be open in the first place?
Well, it's that first reaction which actually sets the tone.
I feel like you don't even feel like telling them what's wrong because, I mean, it's so much. But for me particularly, I'll probably answer it. For me, when I say kuch nahi, it's just because I need my time to myself. I have anger management issues.
Okay.
So I'll probably take my time and I'll get over it. Thank you for saying that. I mean, I try a lot to hold it back. So, if I say kuch nahi, I need my time. I need whatever, it can be an hour or something, or a few minutes or something,
okay,
whatever.
An hour or a minute
I'll get over it. I'll never discuss it again. Probably even forget it. But that particular time,
we all need that bit when we come home.
Yeah.
We need that bit to cool down. So, and it's probably the wisest thing to do because then you don't take on the family at once or the servants or whoever is around.
Right.
So that's very important. Now, and what I was saying about the reaction was that if the teachers or the parents, if they blow out at the first, they are never going to get an honest answer after.
Right, that's
so one has to be very controlling, very patient, non-judgmental.
Thank you for saying that, Dr. Aiza. So towards the very end, Mr. Umair Qureshi, you being an educationist, you have to give out a message to everyone out there in your sphere.
Being an educationist, you being a doctor and an educational psychologist as well, you being a corporate trainer.
Yeah, please go ahead.
So my message will be like, we are going through the worst era.
With a smile, sir.
Yeah, with a smile. I do have a smiling face. All right. So the thing is that we are going through the worst at the moment in terms of education. We need to stay very, very honest. Yeah. What should be the vision? What should be the changes that should be brought? And please, I have come to your program several times.
Exactly.
And in every program, I try to convey this message to the people that, it's not important how glorified are your degrees, how glorified are your scores. It's more important that you have the generation of wise people.
Exactly.
The world is changing with such a high pace that down the lane after 10 years, the people will not have jobs. It's a for sure thing. Because
even now,
artificial intelligence is taking a lot of control.
Yes, even our jobs, man.
Yeah.
Artificial intelligence.
So a time will come when instead of Shahzad for you, there will be a robot sitting here.
But you won't call them that you have a grade C,
Yeah,
so that's the difference.
And that will have just a perfect artificial intelligence. So my point is, we are going down every day. Okay. Please stay honest.
Yeah.
Stay honest that what we need at the moment. Stay honest to your students instead of giving them shortcuts, instead of trying to push them towards those means where they suspend their beliefs in wisdom, they suspend their beliefs in creativity.
Yeah.
They must come up as thoughtful.
Exactly.
Thoughtful nation.
Wonderfully said. Dr. Aiza, please.
Well, I'll start with the individual.
Yeah.
We need to be honest first with ourselves.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of introspection and it's very hard, and to be kind. Always be kind to yourself first.
Amazing.
So honesty actually is taking care of yourself and admitting your weaknesses. Once a person has done that, it is only then that they can be kind to others and be honest.
Amazing.
Okay,
very
beautifully said.
So whether at workplace, whether at home, whether with friends, with family, wherever you are, it's about yourself first of all. So link it with the voice in your head and the feeling with your heart. That is self-esteem. So when we say self-esteem, so it's about making choices which makes you happy. So happiness, it comes with you, you and your loved ones.
Yeah.
Third part is you and your work. And lastly, it's something bigger than you.
Amazing that is.
So stay honest with yourself.
Very
wonderful. Thank you very much for being with us. It was lovely to have you, and so please make sure to be honest. Yeah, all right. And we'll try that too as well. But ladies and gentlemen, there's just one small message which I would love to give out for all those people who are out there, and that is that it takes a little bit of time, to develop yourself as an honest person in the eye of people who actually surround you. But once you've done it, you're going to love it. The feeling is superb, when there are 10 or 15 people who actually rely on you, who depend on you in terms of advice, who depend on you in terms of, keeping their whatever objects safe as well, so things like these. And I think people who are honest needs to be in the leadership positions too as well, so that we can actually proceed and progress at a pace where nobody is actually be there.
Very rightly said, Shazad. And you know, since Mr. Umar Qureshi spoke about how the education system is going down, I feel very deeply about that, because I feel like you start receiving your education from a very early age, and if you're not taught of being honest and being the right person since that age, you will never be in the future. And well, here's the good news. I was reading, this was probably 2 days ago, that the new government is standardizing the education system of madrasas, incorporating them in the regular education system. Fingers crossed, the future is definitely going to be bright. If you learned anything, if you learned to be honest from us, please write us on a Facebook page, which is with the name of
World This Morning.
On Twitter.
World This Morning without a G.
Daily Motion on YouTube.
World This Morning, World This Morning.
And the repeat is going to be
5 past 11 p.m. tonight. Till the next time, 1, 2, 3.
Good morning.
Thank you very much.
Islamabad, the capital city, bustles with politicians and business activity. It stretches out around the foothills of the Mughals. To many, Islamabad is just that, lush green views in a modern, urbanized capital that houses politicians, diplomats and the Pakistani elite. But it is while driving through the stucco gate that the line between urbanization and traditionalism blurs us into an eclectic blend of the past and the present. The alleyways that bend through the village hold remnants of a rather colorful, regal history. A tourist site today,
the abode of God, a place where you can explore your soul and meet power of natural elegance of mountains. Spread over an area of 12,605 hectares, the Magla Range, the foothills of Himalayas, are youngest hills with an age of 5,000 years old.
काश मैं दौरे पैगंबर में उठाया जाता, काश मैं दौरे पैगंबर में उठाया जाता, बाखुदा कदमों में सरकार के पाया जाता।
Terrorism. Mr. President, terrorism, however, is now a global phenomenon which must be addressed comprehensively and in all its forms, including state terrorism. The international community must coordinate its efforts to accomplish this. These efforts should be taken collectively and not unilaterally by the passage of any laws with extraterritorial application targeted against certain countries. We will not win the fight against terrorism and violent extremism so long as we do not address their root causes. These lie in poverty and ignorance, political and social injustice and oppression, foreign intervention and occupation, and denial of the legitimate rights of the people and nations, especially the right to self-determination. Until these underlying causes are addressed, it will be difficult to counter the twisted narrative of violent extremists and terrorists. Mr. President, after 15 years of the current war in Afghanistan, the international community agrees that the only road to a lasting peace in that country is through a dialogue between the government in Kabul and the Afghan Taliban. Pakistan has long proposed this as the most viable course to end decades of conflict and suffering in Afghanistan. Based on this belief in a negotiated peace and in response to requests from President Ashraf Ghani, we have been facilitating the process of reconciliation in Afghanistan. There have been setbacks. That, however, is not a sufficient reason to abandon the path of peace and rely on the military option, which has failed for the past decade and a half to stabilize Afghanistan. Progress will be assured only when the Afghan parties themselves conclude that there is no military solution to the Afghan war and work assiduously through a meaningful dialogue process for achieving reconciliation and peace at home. Mr. President, over 3.5 decades of conflict and chaos in Afghanistan has had grave security and economic consequences for Pakistan. Almost 3 million Afghan refugees to whom we opened our homes and hearts remain in Pakistan. We hope to see them return to Afghanistan voluntarily and with dignity. Until they do, the international community must shoulder its responsibilities to sustain them. Mr. President, confrontation should not be our destiny in South Asia. Pakistan wants peace with India. We have gone the extra mile to achieve this, repeatedly offering a dialogue to address all outstanding issues. But India has posed unacceptable preconditions to engage in a dialogue. Let us be clear. Talks are no favor to Pakistan. talks are in the interest of both countries. They are essential to resolve our differences, especially in Jammu and Kashmir dispute, and to avert the danger of any escalation. Mr. President, peace and normalization between Pakistan and India cannot be achieved without a resolution of the Kashmir dispute. This is an objective evaluation, not a partisan position. Our predictions have now been confirmed by events. A new generation of Kashmiris has risen spontaneously against India's illegal occupation, demanding freedom from occupation. Burhan Wani, the young leader murdered by Indian forces, has emerged as a symbol of the latest Kashmiri Intifada, a popular and peaceful freedom movement led by Kashmiris, young and old, men and women, armed only with an undying faith in the legitimacy of their cause and a hunger for freedom in their hearts. Mr. President, this indigenous uprising of the Kashmiris have been met as usual with brutal repression by India's occupation force of over 500,000 soldiers. Over 100 Kashmiris have been killed, hundreds, including children and infants, blinded by shotgun pellets, and over 6,000 unarmed civilians injured over the past 2 months. These Indian brutalities are well documented. I would like to inform the General Assembly that Pakistan will share with the Secretary General a dossier containing detailed information and evidence of the gross and systematic violations of human rights committed by Indian forces in occupied Jammu and Kashmir. These brutalities will not suppress the spirit of the Kashmiris. It will only intensify their anger and fortify their determination to see India end its occupation of Kashmir. From Srinagar to Sopur, the men, women, and children come out each day, defying curfew to demand freedom. Mr. President, Pakistan fully supports the demand of the Kashmiri people for self-determination as promised to them by several Security Council resolutions. Their struggle is a legitimate one for liberation from alien occupation. International law and declarations of the United Nations on self-determination give the Kashmiri people the right to struggle for their freedom. Every year, the General Assembly unanimously adopts the resolution which reaffirms the right of all peoples to self-determination and calls on the states concerned to immediately end their occupation and all acts of repression. Mr. President, on behalf of the Kashmiri people, on behalf of the mothers, wives, sisters, and fathers of the innocent Kashmiri